Yes. You are able to see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
So last class, we have closed our plate girder. Okay, so we have seen so many designs will be there, but design is very easy only. But the steps are, so many. So you have to check each and every, like tension field, post critical, end panel, stiffeners, say variety of stiffeners. So all those things you have to verify. Okay. Otherwise, the design is as simple as thing. Okay. So now the thing next is the beam columns, which you have already started. So this is also very simple only because already you know how to design a column, how to design a beam actually. Now it is a combined kind of thing which we have to do and which is more realistic, in practice most of all the columns say. So they will have bending moment also biaxial bending, both the sides. They will have bending this side, bending this side and then the compressive forces. So how do we design these type of beam columns? Okay. So now, of course, it's straightforward, but there are some cases are there, like you see, you can have, how the column behaves say, during biaxial bending as well as compressive load. So depending on, where the bending moment is acting along the major axis or the minor axis say. So you can have variety of combinations. Okay. One is a stocky is a classical. So the short column means anyway, the plastic hinge and other things gets formed. But if it's a slender column, so you can have multiple failures, like you see lateral torsional buckling will be there, then ordinary flexural buckling actually. And these two also can happen in both the directions, along y direction also, along z direction also, because there is a biaxial bending. So depending on the moment of inertia, depending on the type of the load, so you can have variety of failures, and depending on restraints also. If it provide a lateral restraint is along one axis, then it may buckle along the other axis also. Okay. So there are some cases are there, but anyway, in reality, this is a case 4. That is, sometime we may have to do like this biaxial bending and all this case, but this is the last one. So all the cases will be present actually. So how it is going to buckle? So it depends on the moment of inertia. So it depends on the type of the loads, accordingly, so you have to design the member itself. So the most important thing what we said in the last class was generally in this beam columns, say, although you can't separate beam and a column because all of them are interrelated. Say like, if I have bending moments, MA, MB, say, so then, because of the axial force, you will have P times Y also. Okay. So and this is like a non-linear kind of thing. So this also as a deflection increases, this also increases actually. So this is the original bending moment diagram say. So you have additional thing which comes from this, the axial force. So this we call as the second order movement or secondary movements also, we call them, or sometimes in textbooks we call them as a P delta effect or member effects also. These are the words they know why you use. So you can solve analytically. So analytically, if you solve the equation and then you write like last class I have already written. So finally we can derive the expressions like this. This is the, the secant formula you can derive, and you can rewrite these expressions in a nice fashion like P by Py plus M by My 1 by is equal to 1. So these type of equations we call them as interaction equation. So this is an interaction equation between a compressive force and the bending moment. So P by Py plus M by My. Now this quantity say which is 1 by 1 minus P by PCR, which is acting as a coefficient where PCR is a Euler's buckling load, pi square I by L square say. Okay. So this quantity is what we call as this, the amplification factor or the magnification factor. So this is how the interaction equations is looks like for this case. Now similarly, so if I have sway columns, say when you allow sway in the unbraced columns or whatever frames if we have, so what happens is since you are allowing a frame, say, so you will have this delta also which comes into picture, which is due to the sway. So this is what people call as is a structure effect actually. That is a member effect. This is a structure effect kind of thing. So here also, if you solve the equations of equilibrium and then you do all the things you say. So here also you can derive this type of interaction equations actually. So something we can write finally in this type of a format. So this interaction equations becomes very important. So if the column has to be safe, say it has to satisfy this interaction equations. Now in a reality, like ideal case, say if it's the ideal case, so if it is a biaxial bending, then all kinds of things are there. So biaxial bending, so bending along y, bending along z, plus axial force. This is all three. Okay. So the axial load say. So now, if you try to derive, the column is initially straight, column is no eccentricity, you followed, or the column is perfectly straight, no residual stresses, nothing is available, say everything is perfectly fine. So maybe the interaction equations, you see, we can, this is like a simplified format, like P by P plus Mz by My plus My by Ny, say, will be less than or equal to 1. It is more or less, you see, a linear kind of things, we may get. So if your whatever columns, if it is inside this tetrahedron, say it may be safe. If it is outside, it may be unsafe. So this is the interaction, the equation. But in reality, what happens is, since you have residual stresses, eccentricities, crooked column, so many you followed, right? Magnification and even the secondary movements and all other things, non-linearity, everything if we include, so the interaction equations will be not be a straight line. They will be, in reality, it will be like a, some kind of a surface actually, okay, some kind of a curved surface in 3 dimensions. But this is very difficult to see, so we try to do some kind of so this is exact, so this will be a function, so pu by pn, so this is not a linear, so you will have some complicated the function, so nz, then muy, say, by mny. So this is like a complicated, you see, the function will be there like this, a function, a non-linear thing will be there. So because it is very difficult and to simplify, so the codal things, what they do is, so we try to retain these type of simple equations, but these type of non-linearities or second order effects and other things, what we do is, so we write P by P, and plus, you see, we will write some type of amplification factors actually, mz by nz. So this one, plus we have some another amplification factor or some constants we will add to this, the movements actually. So this is how we write these type of interaction equations. So you will learn about these things in great detail in the next courses, but here you should be able to understand what is meant by interaction, how these interaction curves, looks like. Then another thing also in the code, what we do is, in reality, the bending moments, say, they may not be same actually, MB and MA. You can have variety of bending moment diagrams. So now the code also, suppose if it is a, UDL, say, you may have different bending moment. If it is some other load, so you may have some other bending moments. So there will be variety of bending moment shapes will be there. So what our code also, since anyway the shape is not important, we are interested only in the maximum M axis, the maximum bending moment, which we will use it in the design. So here also the code this specifies this, what we call as the equivalent movement actually. So that means whatever bending moment you have, say it may be quadratic, it may be this, or it may be that, or it may be anything. So we approximate this in this type of a format actually. So we will have an equivalent movement, like this, you see a rectangle, and then we have the second order. So this is my M max. So this M equivalent movement is written as some C times M. So this is like a movement factor, something like a conversion factor. So when we do this equivalent, say both of them are same. So this M max from this one and the M max here, both of them will be same. We can't finally anyway where the maximum movement is occurring is not important for us. We are interested only in the maximum value, which we will use it in the design. So like for the simple linear cases, say, so this is some type of the equations where psi is MA by MB. Okay, so this is like this type of the equivalent movements also we will use it in the code actually. So now if you come to IS code, say to design a beam column, so it is very simple, and of course our IS code is based on Eurocode 3, that is from there they have picked up these things. So they do these two checks have to be done. One is a capacity check, otherwise is the buckling check, because the columns may be slender. Very simple. So in the capacity check, say, so this is the interaction, the equations basically. Okay, so if I have a beam column, so subjected to axial force is there, then it may be tension or it may be compression, then we have a bending moment. So this is my interaction equation actually, My by N, Ndy, Mz by M, Ndz, and we have alpha 1 and alpha 2. Okay, suppose if the column is perfectly fine, no, it is idealistic case, say, maybe you can take alpha 1, alpha 2 as one linear case, but in reality, as already I mentioned, you will have several other cross sections, so many issues will be there. So these are the interaction equations. So now My and Mz, say, they are the applied moments, like how much bending moment you have applied in minor axis and in the major axis, say. So this is the one, and these are the design, reduced flexural strength under combined axial force, under respect to uniaxial moment acting alone. So these are the M and dy, M and dz. How to compute the code also gives us. So the value of M and dy, M and dz, say, for plastic and compact dissections. So there is one table which is given in IS 800, so that you have to use, and these constants are taken as 5n and then 2. we will define this one. So now what are these things is like, suppose if I have a welded section, say I section, so M and dz actual, okay, so which is coming in this curves M and dz, then M and dy. Okay, so you can take it from this expression. This small n is nothing but the ratio, that is the applied axial force to the design strength in the tension or compression. So you know how to calculate the design strength in compression, we have already seen. Design strength in tension also we have seen. So using that one, say you have to use this one. Now M dz, then M dy, say. So these are nothing but the design strength under corresponding moment acting alone. So this is we have already calculated for beams actual. So whatever you do, that beams bending moment capacity, so use those formulas, you write M dy and M dz, and this is like a correction factor actual. Okay, so this is like, as already I told you, right, the correction factor or the amplification factor, like we have seen right here. So in this expression, say, so what did we had? P by Py we had, M by My we had. Here we had this 1 by 1 minus a PCR or something like that we had actually. So here you had this critical buckling load, or the axial thing is there. So this amplification factor, say, so we add here. Okay, so M dz, so this is our M dn and dy, M and dz. So here say mz, so here this the 1 by n minus n by nd, so these terms comes into picture actually. So this is for M and dy. Now suppose if it is a rolled section, say you have to use this formula. So you can see 1 point, so M dz is your bending capacity for a beam actual, and 1.11 multiplied by 1 minus n. N is anyway n by nt. Okay, that are P by PCR or P by PCR kind of thing. So this is your amplification factor or magnification factor, whatever we have. So estimate these numbers and then you substitute, say, okay, in this expression, and then it should satisfy less than or equal to 1. That means your beam column is safe under capacity check actual. Now if we are having a semi-compact section, say, without holes, so this linear equation, you see, we can use actually. This is just a linear equation, you can see. Okay, so n by nd plus my by mdy, so there is no ndy also. So mdy, mdz are just you calculate from the beams, the individual whatever we studied for beams, and nd also you calculate from your column. So this is an interaction equation. This is for semi-compact, but if it is a compact section, say compact and plastic section, so you have to use this expression, because you see you are going into plastic range. That non-linearity and other things comes, say we have seen the stress strain curve. Okay, so where what is meant by semi-compact we have already seen. So here compact and plastic, because you are going into non-linear range, say. So this corrections also you have to apply for your bending moments. If it is semi-compact, you use this. Now slender sections can we use? See, the code doesn't give anything for slender. So why slender sections we don't use? See, can I use any slender section for my beam column? See, slender sections can be used for columns. Long back we have studied, right, for compression members. What does our code says? See, slender sections can be used as a compression member.
No, sir.
So that is not, so that's why see code also doesn't specify. You have to use only semi-compact, plastic, and the compact section. So for plastic and compact, use this, because the things you are going into non-linear range. Now if it is a semi-compact, so use a simple linear equation. No need to do any amplifications, anything. Just individual things you compute, you sum up. If it is less than 1, the thing is safe actually. Okay, so this is a capacity check. Then we have overall buckling check also you have to do in our code. So two equations it gives actually. The first equation corresponds to, if you see these terms, say y is minor axis, z is the major axis. So it is something like so we have you followed it. So two equations are there. So you can also write like the first one, say the first equation, if you see this one, so y is so flexural buckling actually. Okay, the first two component is flexural buckling along minor axis. Okay, the first minor axis, the first term, plus we have this term, say, so this is the bending moment actually. So the bending, that is a uniaxial bending or whatever, along y axis, along minor axis. Okay, second term. Then the third term, say, it is, what is this third term? So if we see here, what is the LT? LT stands for LTB. LTB means what?
Lateral torsional.
So lateral torsional buckling. So this means lateral torsional buckling along which axis? Minor or major axis?
Major axis.
Along major axis. So this is the interaction equation. Okay. So this is a combination of this plus this actual. So that is the first equation. Now we have a second equation also. The second equation says the first term, what does it tells you? Buckling along which axis?
Major axis.
Major axis plus. So here second term bending along which axis?
Minor.
But here please remember how much bending they are considering.
0.6
60% actual. Okay, so 60% bending, along the minor axis. Plus we have the last one. So what is the last one? This one. This is also bending along which axis?
Major axis.
Major axis. Okay, so two equations are there. Okay, so like you see, so you have to satisfy. So this condition also you have to verify. This condition also you have to verify actually. So if it is less than 1, that means you see your design is perfectly fine actually. Now this CM, CY, KY, all those things is say. So CMY, CMZ, they go for equivalent uniform movement factors. Okay, then KY, KLT, KZ say they are something like you see the amplifications or whatever they call. So these are the design bending strengths whatever we have. So now this is the moment amplification factors they define. So these are the terms ky lambda y minus 0.2. This should be this one. Then this is a kz. Then we have the lateral torsional buckling also. Okay. So these terms are all related to your buckling kind of thing where these are all non-dimensional slenderness ratios. So you know how to calculate lambda y. Then lambda LT say Fy by FCRB, all these things how to calculate. We have discussed while discussing in beams itself. So these are the terms. Now coming to this CMY, CMZ. So these are the equivalent movement factors. So if on the column say if the load is not the bending moment is not like this, if the bending moment is like this, or bending moment is a quadratic, or these type of things say how to find out the CMY. So this is what it gives. So psi I think they use. So psi is anyway the ratio actual, okay, between this side to that side. So finally say so for uniform loading how to calculate, for concentrated loads how to calculate. So this is so all these bending moment shapes are converted into equivalent shape actual. Okay, so this is my our the equivalent thing itself. So these are like equivalent movement factors. So this also has been borrowed from the the Eurocode actual. Okay, so now once all these things substitute here, so you check if it is less than 1, that means your beam column is perfectly fine actual. So that's all. So only two checks are there for a beam column. One is a capacity check, other one is a buckling check. So buckling check, there are two equations has been given. So I have explained what are these two equations. So two combinations like LTB, flexural buckling, then we have bending, flexural buckling, major axis, minor axis combination has been done. Then when it comes to capacity check, say, so you have only one interaction equation. And if it is semi-compact, say, it is very simple, straightforward, no need to do anything. So you design this as a column thing. This is a beam, this is a beam, just their capacity to this one. So if it is less than 1, that's all actual. Okay, very straightforward. But if it is a plastic or compact, because you are allowing to go to into non-linear, that plastification, hinge and other things, so you may have to reduce the this one, like the interaction equations I have already showed you. So you have to multiply by those things, and then you should get these numbers. It's very simple and straightforward. So these are the design steps. Okay, so the design steps, the first steps, you find out all the design factored loads, everything you find out, whatever bending moment diagrams, everything you draw. Now you have to assume a trial section actually. So you have to find out because these are all compression members, area and bending is there, so area and section modulus, these are our design variables. Okay, so you have to select a section, say, so something like that. So generally you can do as a thumb rule, you can select something and you can check and you can do also. So there are some guidelines, like you see this thing is not required, but if you want to say like you use something like from the interaction equation, you use dump, and then from the steel tables, you say you select something like A by Z, you estimate, and then you see whichever satisfies here or whatever, you take that trial section. Without that also you select some section, and and then you recalculate, and then you can go back also, iterative fashion also you can do. So once you know the trial section has been selected, say now here when you are using a beam column, you have, if you are going for I sections, that is the rolled I sections if you are using, so generally ISMB, ISLB, they are not preferred actually. Okay, the most preferred is ISHB sections. So these are the ones which are widely used for the beam columns, or sometimes ISWB also we use actually, but your choice should be ISHB, and the second choice should be ISWB. So this is a guideline provided to ISMB, ISLB. They are not even used as a beam column. You can use them for beams, but not as a beam column. Okay. So this is also another guideline. So in the steel tables, always select ISHB, and from there you see whichever you take, and then you do in a routine process. Now you have to do the classification actually. So the slide classification say. So the if you can classify your member, so plastic and compact you have to, because the design equation is different. Then semi-compact sections are not preferred, of course, because they will fail by the lateral yielding, there may be buckling also. So anyway, the two interaction equations are there. So plastic compact, you should use a capacity check, and this one. So now once you have done, say you check this buckling, then capacity and other things. So if it is verified, say, so that means then that thing is fine. Then you also do this individual calculations also. So you have to check them individually also. Okay, like you see for MZ, you check, as you assume it as a beam, you do individual calculations, MZ, MY, then you have to check for lateral torsional buckling, individual kind of things, and then for column also, say. So these individual checks also you have to do, and you have to do the combined check also. Okay, that is the interaction equation. So you do all the calculations, say. So once again, you once it satisfies, you accept it. Otherwise, you have to revise, you have to take a section with more section modulus or more area, and then you have to do all these calculations actually. So these are very, very simple things are there for beam column. So if you know how to design a beam, how to design a column, so beam column is very straightforward. Only thing is you have to do these two additional checks, local capacity, then the local buckling check itself. Okay, so this way we can design any the beam column. Okay, so this problem anyway we will solve in the Friday's class tutorial. Okay, so the next one is the column basis. So this also is linked to the beam columns only. So like you say, beam column we know how, but generally so finally say the beam columns whatever you are having, so they all should be located below this thing. 1 second. Now, so now you see we have designed this beam column. Now we have to design the column base actually. Okay, this is the one. So how the load will get transferred to the concrete. Okay, so this is what is very important. So the column bases. So you would have seen, right? So have you seen any steel columns here? So all our columns are steel basically. Okay. So now this has to be connected to a foundation basic. So the foundations are made up of concrete. So we have a, the concrete, you see the foundation is there. So it has to be connected to the foundation. Okay, so now so this has to be designed actually. So now what we try to do in reality. So this is my column, say that is my I section actual. Okay, so this is my concrete thing is there. So this is my concrete pedestal or whatever I have, say. So now to transfer the load, what we try to do is we design what we call as the base plate actual. So this is my base plate. So this has to be designed. How much should be the base plate width? How much should be the base plate length? So this has to be designed. Like you can see here, this is my base plate actually. You can see here. So this is what you see we have to design actually, which will transfer. So the load is coming from the column to the base plate, and the base plates it will provide is like a bearing plate only. We have done in plate girder beams, say whenever there is a concentrated load or near the supports, we used to put a bearing kind of. So this is also something like you say bearing kind of thing only, a base plate we say, and it will be connected to the by nuts to the concrete actually, which is down. So this we have to design. So this is what we call as you see the column base. So you can see this is a typical actual. So this is my column base, the base plate or whatever. So of course he has already put the column here. So basically what happens is you see these nuts are here. So they will be anchored in the concrete basically. Okay, so you put a concrete, say like you see you put a concrete here. So these are the nuts actual. So you take a steel plate, say. Okay, so this is the one. So these are the four. You put it on the top of it, and then you tighten the screw, say. Then your the column will get nicely fixed to the this itself. So how do we design this plate? That is the length, width, and thickness of this plate actual. So this is the design variable. So the length, width, and then thickness of the base plates. Okay, so here there are, you can see, so this is how, you know, the design. So like you see, you make a thing like this, concreting and others, and then, you know, you put your base plate, say on the top of it. You see your column is welded actually to this base plate. So you have to design this base plate. How much should be the dimensions of this base plate actually? So this is what we call as, you see, the column bases. So generally there are two things are there in the column bases. This is base of a column, say. There are two types, you know, we use actually. One is, you know, the slab base. Okay. Other one is, you see, the column base. Sorry, gusset base. I'm sorry. Okay. So two type of things we use. So the slab base is used for very low loads. You know, low axial loads are, you know, only axial load. No bending moments, you see, no eccentricities, no bending moments. But this gusset base is used for, you know, very heavy loads. And then, you know, the bending movements or whatever are there, say. So this gusset base is widely used in the practice actually. So this is a typical slab base. That is the first one, which is very, very simple. So what we do is, you know, so this is our concrete pedestal. So this is my concrete. So this is my base plate actually. So this is what I have to design. So the length of this base plate, width of this base plate, then the thickness actually. So this we have to design. And now this is my column, say. So sometimes we do welding. Suppose if there is no welding, say, like you see here, here he has done the welding actually, you know, fillet weld or whatever, you see, he has done the welding, you know, inside also. Like this we do welding. Suppose if there is no welding, so you can also connect through, you know, the bolts. So you take angle section, say you put here, so 2 bolts to the column, 2 bolts to this foundation. So we design, you know, like this also. So the same things, if you see like this, you know, so this is the column, the load is applied here. So this is where, you know, we have bolted here. Here also sometimes we do bolting actually. So 1 bolt here, 1 bolt here also. That also is generally provided. And now you see the load, the pressure distribution, say. So the load pressure, you know, which comes from the concrete, the bearing pressure or whatever. So the load is acting like this on the plate. So because of this load, so you have bearing pressure also, which is coming on my base plate actually. So this we have to design the length, width and thickness of my base plate. How much I should take it actually. Okay. Now this is a gusset plate. Okay, the gusset base. So gusset base, if you see, my column is here. Okay. Now apart from this angles, we have this gusset plate also. So this also is used here. So gusset plate generally, you know, it is provided this side as well as this side on the flanges, not on the web. So these are flanges basically. So now this is my base plate. So length, width, you know, L, B, and then thickness, say. So this is my base plate basically. And then this base plate, and this is my column. So in between this, we have a gusset plate also. Then we have to use angle section also, okay, to connect all these 3 things in a one go. So now here, you know, we have to design the gusset base also. That is a base plate we have to design. Then we also have to design the gusset plate. What should be the thickness of my gusset plate? Then I have to design the gusset angle also. So 3 things we have to design. That is a base plate, gusset plate, then angle section also. And gusset angle they call, because, you know, the name, but anyway it is angle section only. So these 3 things you have to design. And if it is a bolted connection, say, so then you have to design the size of the bolts. If it is welded, say, so you have to design, you know, what should be the size of the weld and others also. So these are the things, you know, which are widely used in practice. So this is also a slab base. So here I am showing you 3 figures. So these are slab base. Like you see, I have a column here, say. Okay, so we do welding here. The column is connected. Now this base plate, basically it is connected to the foundation through anchor bolts like this, you know, like I already showed you, right? So these are the anchor bolts which go into the concreting actually. Okay. So this is how you see the base, you know, the slab bases, say the slab base, you see, looks like. Sometimes we put bolts here, or sometimes, you know, we can put near the web itself, or sometimes you see the angle also we put, and then you see we try to do all these kinds of variety of things itself. So the base plate will be anchored to the foundation, that is the concreting foundation. So this is what we say anchor bolts. So this is a base plate. So the base plate is connected to the concreting, say, through this anchor bolts. So this also, you know, we try to use, these are the technical words. So now if the column is subjected to axial load, it will be like this. But if it is axial load and bending moment, so you have to use angle section, or you have to use a gusset base actual, okay, to sort to do this type of transfer, this type of loads. Now how do we design this slab base, and how to design the gusset base? Now here the design variables are the length, width and thickness of my the slab base. Okay, so if I do this one, so my design will be very easy actual. Okay, so it is very simple. So this is in plan. So I know the depth of my I section. Depth is already known. If it is ISHB 450, say 450, then this also is known to me. That is the breadth of the flange. This is also known. Okay, now I have to design my slab base. So my slab base should be slightly bigger than my column. So A and B. So this side is A and this side is also A. So A is something like you see, we call as you see overhang. And here also B, that is how much extra we are taking apart from the breadth of the flange. So this is also overhang. So sometimes if A will be greater than B, so greater overhang, smaller overhang also you see we try to do. So now if you see it in plan, say it looks something like this actual. Okay, so this is, and this base plate is subjected to this uniform pressure actually, which is coming from the concrete, the bearing pressure or whatever. So and it acts like a UDL W. So now if I take 1 mm strip, say along the XX axis, okay, so XX axis is here and this is my YY and XX. So now the maximum bending moment generally will be acting near this junction. So this is a junction between the column and here, say. So maximum bending moments will be acting here because of symmetry. Both of them will be same. So if I calculate the maximum bending moment, say, and it is a UDL and it is a Newton per W is n by mm square and A is the overhang, say, I can write this as WA into WA square by 2. So at this junction, so this is a critical the bending moment. Now if you take in YY direction, say along this direction, so it will be B WB square by 2. And if I assume the Poisson's ratio as the how much is the Poisson's ratio for steel? Previously we have done, right? What is the Poisson's ratio for steel? In plate we have seen that post critical, no? We have to use that mu. Now what's the Poisson's ratio of steel? Any of you remember?
0.03.
0.3. Okay, so now the net movement, say, so the net movement will be WA square by 2 minus 0.3 WB square by 2. So this 0.3 stands for Poisson's ratio. So this is my net the bending moment here. So now the movement capacity of the plates. So plate is also like a beam basically. So so for beam right, 1.2 times Fy into Z, right, 1.2 that in the beam, how come 1.2 comes? Any of you remember 1.2, we used to write in beams actually. 1.2 stands for you remember, for simply supported beam we had, for cantilever we had 1.5, it should be less than this, you remember. So 1.2 times, that is a serviceability criteria. So from there it comes. Okay, so this is elastic. So this is a movement capacity of the plate. We use that formula. So now, so if the T is the thickness of my plate, say, so I can find out the movement capacity, that is, the section modulus I can easily find out. So BT square by, that elastic section modulus, BT square by 6. So this is my capacity. So now you equate these two, so movement capacity and the net movement. So you solve for thickness actual. So this is the formula you should use to calculate thickness of my, the base plate. So now, so the design steps are very simple. The base plate, okay, we are just designing a plate. So now you assume a suitable grade of concrete. So this anyway, M20 or M15 or M40, some concrete will be there, say. Now we use the bearing strength of a concrete is, we take it as 0.45 times FCK. Okay, this is what the code, the recommends. Of course, maximum is a 0.6, but the code recommends is 0.45 times FCK. FCK is that bearing strength of the concrete actual. So now the area of the slab base is, say, the load which is coming on the this one, that is on the member. So this divided by bearing strength of concrete, that is a 0.45 times FCK will give you the area actual. How much should be the approximate area of the base plate, giving the load and then the bearing pressure. So once you know the area, say, so generally we take it to be square base plate, or there are several issues are there. So generally, what we try to do is, the projections actually A and B, they may be kept equal, and so D plus 2B. So D is the depth of the beam actual. Okay, the ISH beam 300 means 300. Then this is the breadth of the flange, plus these are all overhangs on this side, overhang on this side, 2A, 2B. So this should be equal to area. So this also we have a guideline. So now, so once you know the guidelines, now you find out, once you know the area, so you can find out the intensity of the pressure, that is the load divided by area. So how much area of the base plate you have provided. So this should be less than your concrete, the bearing pressure. So that is, you have to just verify. Now, once that is done, say the thickness of my, the slab base you have to calculate actual. Okay. And the guideline is, it should never be less than the thickness of the column flange. So base plate thickness, say it should not be less than the column flange thickness. Okay. So once you know the thickness, you decide, you see the overhangs and other things also by trial and you followed. So you can take some guidelines like L is equal to B, and then you can do all the something like square root of area. You can use this one. Thickness also you find out, you check once again, and then you have to find out the thickness using that formula, that is this one. Okay, so which we have already derived here. So this you use to calculate the thickness. So once you know everything, you see, so finally you verify once again, so whether this pressure is less than that 0.45, that FCK or something. So if it is fine, say, then the design is perfectly fine. Otherwise, you have to revise your design itself. And then you have to design the bolts also, that is anchor bolts. Okay, and the 20 mm diameter bolts are used here. 2 bolts will be enough. Suppose otherwise you have to design the welded joint also between the column and the base plate. So this anyway, the shear you have to find out, and then the length of the weld and other things can be found out. So this is a simple design for a column base. Now gusset base is a, so here as already I told you, so gusset base means that you have to design the gusset plate also, and you have to design the gusset angle also. So 2 things will come. So gusset plate, what should be the thickness, length, width of the gusset plate, then the angle also. So this also has to be decided actually. But here, because the gusset plates say, so they are very, very, they carry more load and they are very strong. So what happens is the base plate thickness, so if I compute from gusset base, this base plate thickness will be small actually when we compare to that slab base, because you have additional things which are coming from the the gussettings. So here also there are a lot of guidelines have been provided actually. Okay, and these are the design steps. So you assume the suitable grade of concrete, so 0.45 times FCK. So the area of the base plate, so use the same formula. Now coming to the gusset materials, so the gusset plate, it should not be less than 16 mm thickness for bolted gusset base. So there are guidelines are there, and the gusset angle is chosen so to accommodate, you see, 2 rows of bolts in the vertical leg and 1 row of bolts is in the horizontal leg itself. So that is how you see in the vertical leg it is the 2 rows, and in the horizontal legs it is only 1 row. So we generally use any angle section only, and the thickness of the gusset angle should be almost same as that of the gusset plate. So gusset plate, if you are taking 16 mm, gusset angle also should be 16 mm itself, and the length of the gusset material is normally kept equal to the length of the base plate basically. Okay, parallel to the flange of the column. And for welded gusset plates, gusset angles will not be required actually. So because welding only will take all this one, so there are no bolts required. So angle sections is not required actually. So these are the guidelines. Now the dimensions of the base plate. Okay, so we take it as depth of the section plus 2 times the thickness of the gusset plate, length of the angle plus overhang. This is like this. Now this one, if you see this figure, it will so now the length of the base plate. Okay, so this length of the base plate is nothing but this is the flange actually. So this is the depth of the flange. So this is my D. Okay, so this plus this thickness of my gusset plate. Okay, so this thickness plus this gusset angle also will be there here. So this this thickness also will be there, because the gusset plate is this side, it is also on the other side to symmetry, then gusset angle also. So D plus thickness of gusset plate, thickness of the angle section this side, and then you have this also. So you add all the things plus overhang actually. Okay, so this happens to be like this. So thickness of gusset plate, leg length of the angle, so plus overhang actual. Okay, so this is 2 times, because this side and that side we have. So this is my leg L. Suppose if it is welded section, say, so this angle is not required actually. Okay, so only gusset plate itself is sufficient. So this is the length of the gusset plate. So the maximum overhang should be kept as small as possible. Now the dimensions of the base plate. So once you know the area from this thing, so just B by A by L will give the the width of the your the bearing plate. Now you find out the W, the intensity, and it should be smaller than that 0.45 times FCK. So then the things are fine. Then you have to find out the for finding the thickness of the base plate, say. So the same concept we use actually, the critical section. Okay, so where is the maximum? So here also, like whatever we did for this one. So the critical section is assumed to lie at the root of the fillet actually of the angle section for bolted connections as the load from the flange is transferred to the base plate to the gusset material. So here, so our critical section is here. So the critical section for a gusset thing is here. Okay, so this is my critical section here. Okay, so here you have to find out the bending moment actually. So this one and this one also. But here anyway, symmetry it will be same. So this is here you have to find out the section. Okay. So that is what the critical section is. So if you take it that as some C or whatever, you have to find out, you see, figure this one MCMW into C1 square by 2. So there you take the moment and you equate it to the capacity. So you can calculate the thickness. But here in the gusset plate, the advantage is, what we had is when you try to find out this thing, say, what is happening here, can you see? So this section, say, we are interested in the bending moment actually. But here the thickness, if you see, this is the thickness of the base plate plus this angle, so this is also will come, the thickness of the angle section also will come actually. So whatever the total thickness you compute, so that becomes addition of base plate thickness plus this angle plate thickness also. So this has to be subtracted to calculate the base plate thickness. That is what is that thing says. Okay, so computed thickness minus thickness of the gusset angle. So this you have to do it, and because that is a critical portion we are finding it out, and you find out the thickness of the gusset plate. So this is a design bending strength. So the same example 0.2 Fy square T. So this has to be equated to this one. So you find out T is the C1 times in the portion of the base plate acting as a cantilever. So yield strength you find out. So you will get the thickness of this itself. So now you have to design the bolts, how to connect it to the foundation. So this is a general thing, 20 mm diameter we use, and the welded joint also has to be designed. Then the gusset plate, say, so the length of the gusset plate also we have to find out is kept equal to the side of the base plate parallel to which it is provided. The height of the gusset plate, say, is governed by the number of rows of bolts actually, okay, or by the length of the weld to be accommodated. Then the thickness of the gusset plate may be assumed as from the buckling criteria. See the gusset plate, what happens is, you see here gusset plate, what type of load is acting on the gusset plate? So you have a UDL. So this gusset plate is like a beam actually, tapered beam or whatever. So it is subjected to UDL. Now which fiber will be in compression tension, top fiber or the bottom fiber? So you have a beam, the load is coming from below, UDL is acting here, say. So where buckling can happen, top or bottom? Now which one will be in which is the compressive side and tension side?
Top is the compression side.
Top is compression. So which one will buckle, the top or bottom?
Top.
So there is a chance of lateral torsional buckling or whatever of the gusset plate, say, at the top actually. So for that, you see the design conditions, and because gusset plate is very, very thin, so these are the things actually. Depth of the gusset plate, the thickness, say, from the buckling criteria, D should be this one, then S0 should be this one. So we do this tapering also, and the thickness of the gusset plate, you estimate from the bending, the capacity. So this is how we have to design. So the depth, so the gusset plate size, the length, everything is fine, but the height of the gusset plate anyway, this is fine. The thickness actually, so thickness of the gusset plate comes from buckling actually. So the criteria and the moment capacity, say. So you can find out, you see, the gusset plate thickness also. Now when you are having this type of load, say, like we have uniaxial load plus we have a bending moment also. So we have a column, okay, like so you have a this one, then you also have bending moment also. So both these things are there. So then design is slightly different, more or less same only. Like this is my axial load, axial stress distribution. This is my bending stress actually, which comes from the uniform, the constant bending moment diagram, say. This is a stress distribution. So here compression and here it is a tension. So easily you can find out 6P by BL. So M is P times E. Okay. So you can easily write, you see, the 6P by B times L square or whatever. So if I add these two, so when it is subjected to load plus bending moment, say, So I will get these type of the stress distribution. So I may have, depending on this one, so I can have the depending on E, depending on my movement and load, say I can have variety of cases. The whole column may be under compression, but it is not uniform, something like this. Or I may have if the depending on my E, say M value and P value, I can have a case like this. Or maybe this side of the column will be in tension actually. One side tension, other side compression also will come. So how do we do the design for these type of cases actually? So the code is very simple. So this is my stress distribution, say, which contains a bending moment plus the axial compression. So we will get three cases. No tension, that is 1 minus 6E by L is 0, that is E is equal to L by 6. That means there is no tension, and when the tension developed is very small, say that is 6 by L by 6 to 6 by L by 3, then when tension developed is substantial actually, E is greater than the L by 3. So how do we do the design actually? So the first case, say, so E less than L by 6, the whole plate is under compression, but the stress is like this. Okay, so something like this, or if you take E as L by 6, say, so then this is my load actually. Okay, so if this is 0, this is a 2P by LB. So no this one. So easily you can find out from the width of the base plate. So E is L by 6. So you can find out this one from L should be E by 6 times E. You can easily find out. Now 2P by LB, and E you can find out as M by M is P. Okay. So L you can find out. Now this should be less than 0.45 times FCK. So you can find out the width of my base plate also. And the thickness you find out from the bending moment capacity, which already we have seen in the previous things. Okay, so this is how you have to do when it E is less than L by 6. Now when E is L by 6 to L by 3, say, so then there will be a small tension will be there in the base plate actually. Sorry. These you will have the bending moment distribution will be something like this. Okay, so this is the compression here, and the small you followed it, the tension will be there. So here also so we have to find out the distance. Where is that X? I think. So this is how the things will be. Okay, so here you have a small the tension is very small here. So this is the compression tension. This is the axis of my column. So this is the X is the compressive the region where in the base plate which is under compression. So this you find out X, and if you try to find out the the centroid and other things you say. Okay, so you can calculate easily. So X by 3 plus E is L by 2. So X you can find out easily. Then the width of the base plate, say, so this you can find out like compressive force in the concrete is area of the stress angle into width actual. That is this area of this triangle you find out. So this if you equate, say, so you will get my B you can find out. So once you find out B, say that you solve it for B using this expression, then thickness anyway you are finding from the bending moment criteria, that BT square by 6, and then you solve for the thickness actual. Now if the whole plate is under substantial tension, say, so what happens now? So this is a plate, full compression is only this side actually. A small you have a compression, but majority is the tensile forces. See what is the concrete? What's the problem with concrete in tension? See for concrete, say, which is concrete is weak in compression or tension?
Tension.
So tensile forces means for steel it is no issue, but for concreting you have a serious problem actually. Okay, so small area is under compression, but major area is under tension. So so the size of the base plate we do like this. So we do equilibrium. So this is a total load. This is a compressive force. This is a tensile force actually. Okay, they are in other reverse directions, and bending moment also you can find out actually. So now you have to use this expressions to say, okay, the L by B. So from the equilibrium of these forces, you have to calculate, the width of the plate. So the X you have to find out, then bending moment you have to find out. So from this you can solve for this one. So C2, B and other things you can find out. Then the thickness of the plate, say, you compute from the bending capacity. So this is straightforward. So only thing is, the three cases are there. But here the problem is, because you have the tensile forces. Tensile forces cannot be carried by concrete. So you have to design the bolts actually. So this bolt is very, this bolt is a very special bolt, because these bolts will be under, the tension. You followed. Whereas this bolt, say, will be under, the compression kind of thing. So that this is what we call as an anchor bolts. So they have to be designed for tension. You followed. So this is a merger and the most important thing. So design steps are very simple, only just a substitution only, but you have to understand that there are three cases are there. When there is a full compression, non-uniform compression, then you have some small tension, some major portion is in compression, or majority is a tension, minority is a compression kind of thing. So the designs will be different. So these are the design steps actually, okay, for this things. So anyway, so finally, so you see, so you have to design, so the column bases, then this beam columns is they are very simple, straightforward, not so much complicated as a plate girder and others, which any one of you can easily design, if you just follow the steps is same. So you can do this design itself. Okay, so fine. So I will stop here.